What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Morgan.
How are you today?
I'm good. Actually had a good day. How are you doing?
Yep, pretty good. It's been super hot, and it wasn't today. It was actually like super nice, and so got to enjoy a little bit of a reprieve from wanting to melt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was great.
I watched a thunderstorm from my screen porch for part of today, which is like the best. So yeah,
I love that.
Doing good.
I love watching a thunderstorm.
Yes, for sure. All right, let's get COVID stuff out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we are recording this on July 15th. At this point, there have been 138,000 COVID deaths in the United States. Everywhere but in New York and New Jersey, cases are increasing. Specifically in Illinois, there have been like 700 to 900 new cases every day for the past couple of days. It's trending upwards, and that the last time that was the case was in early April. And like, nobody's vaccinated. Nobody's like, the only tool that we have now that we didn't have then was masks. So wear your fucking masks.
Yeah.
That's like the only way you're allowed to return to the normal world.
And we all want that. We all want to return to normal. That's the thing. I heard a campaign ad today that was like, while the Democrats were doing impeachment and trying to lock everyone down, the Republicans were trying to get life back to normal. And I'm like, no one wants everything just to be locked down. Like, everyone wants life to go back to normal, but it doesn't just like become normal because we want it to. Things have to happen. And also, like, I'm probably going to say this 45 times over the course of our next like scheduled, 3 or 4 episodes. Teachers are not like responsible for the economy.
Yeah.
So
it seems
let's
like
just not.
We're like all the we like are now piling all of our problems on like policemen who can't handle it and teachers who can't handle like we're expecting those two groups of people to do so much stuff that they're like not equipped or ready. I mean, we
won't even fund classrooms as it is. Like, teachers have to buy their own freaking Kleenex. You really think that we're going to be supplying the schools with the right things in order to stop the spread of a COVID outbreak in a school? Hell no.
I have heard, so one of the cool things about joining my local Indivisible group is that I get to talk to just like a smattering of people from my community that I never would have been in contact with before. And especially since I'm like new here, I really appreciate that. But I got to hear it's almost exclusively women, and a lot of them have kids. Some of them are teachers, but I heard from a couple different people about their kids' like opening plans, like school reopening plans that they just recently got, and they're all different. Like, they're all trying. Like, for example, one of them, they're planning to like divide the classes in 2, and half will go Monday, Tuesday. They'll be off Wednesday for like cleaning. They'll clean the whole school, and then the other half will come in Thursday, Friday. I've heard like a ton of other different things that they're trying to do, but essentially, like, at least the conversation in my group was that they just came out with those plans, and basically the consensus was that like, man, it's not enough. Like, it's not safe enough. Basically, like, we didn't shut down hard enough the first time. Yeah. So now there's nothing that we can do moving forward. Like,
We've
Yeah.
accidentally turned ourselves into like Sweden, kind of. You know, it's yeah, well, fun
And now we
stuff.
can't go anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I think having Canada and Mexico closed off to us, like, we can't fly to Europe. Like, we're fucked.
Yeah.
They're
Remember
like,
when
"Good
we were
luck, you
supposed
guys."
to go to Mars and now we can't even go to Canada?
Yeah. So please wear your masks, wash your hands, stay home if you can stay home. Like, stop behaving however you were behaving in early April with the excessive hand washing and the not going on vacation and the not hanging out with your cousins. Like, do that now because that's where we're headed. Like, we're headed back towards a lot more cases. Okay, so cases increase, hospitalizations increase, deaths increase. We're about to see deaths increase, but like all that stuff is still increasing too. So,
Yeah.
in case anybody wants a glimpse at what the next couple weeks look like and why, I don't know.
So yeah, that was our nice light COVID update to bring you on to an even more light and fuzzy topic.
Yeah, well, I'm excited.
I am too, honestly. Like, this is going to be great.
Yeah, okay. So, I have been doing a bunch of research about systemic corruption in the New York Police Department specifically. If the name Frank Serpico sounds familiar to you, he was kind of like the original whistleblower. So this isn't a story about Frank Serpico. If you want to learn about Frank Serpico, there's a movie about it. Who, I forget, is it Sylvester Stallone that plays? Shit, I'm so bad. Whatever, who cares? So there's a movie about it. You can learn about it. I'm going to be talking about somebody named Adrian Schoolcraft, and sometimes I accidentally say Schoolhouse. I don't know why. If I do that, sorry, you know what I mean. But my dumb brain can't stop doing it. A lot of what I got was from an episode of This American Life that's actually like 10 years old. It's episode 414. It's called The Right to Remain Silent. So that is an interview with Adrian Schoolcraft himself. It's from September 2010. So that was really, really interesting and enlightening. And it even included, basically, this is about Adrian Schoolcraft and the NYPD tapes, which I like in 2010. I was a freshman in college. I was not really like paying attention to this stuff, but the NYPD tapes were a big deal. For like almost 18 months, Adrian Schoolcraft recorded every interaction he had with every police officer, everybody he encountered at work. And that just so happened to include a lot of corruption. So we had 18 months worth of tapes of that stuff. And when it came out, it was a big deal. So if you want to hear, there might be some audio of that throughout this episode, but if you want to hear more of it, go listen to episode 414 of This American Life. It's really good. So I want to tell this story because people like to call corrupt cops bad apples, but they forget that like the full expression is that a rotten apple spoils the whole bunch. And this is just one example out of many good apples that are trying to do the right thing and end up receiving like retribution and being bullied. And eventually Adrian Schoolcraft was intentionally discredited and held against his will in a psych ward for 6 days, all because he was trying to expose corruption in the New York Police Department. And it went like all the way to the top. So it's really like a culture that needs to be torn down and rebuilt because there is no reforming it. So I mentioned Frank Serpico. That was from the early 70s. And this is a quote from the Knapp Commission, which is like the commission that was formed after Frank Serpico came forward, kind of. They found systemic, widespread corruption. That was 50 years ago now. So Frank's quote from that trial was, "Through my appearance here today, I hope that police officers in the future will not experience the same frustration and anxiety that I was subjected to for the past 5 years at the hands of my superiors. because of my attempt to report corruption. I was made to feel that I had burdened them with an unwanted task. The problem is that the atmosphere does not yet exist in which an honest police officer can act without fear of ridicule. Damn, Ben, can you make me sound smart? Without fear of ridicule or reprisal from his fellow officers. Police corruption cannot exist unless it is. Police corruption cannot exist unless I can't say unless. It's going to be a problem. Okay. Police corruption cannot exist unless it is at least tolerated at higher levels in the department. Therefore, the most important result that can come from these hearings is a conviction by police officers that the department will change. In order to ensure this, an independent, permanent investigative body dealing with police corruption like this commission is essential. So that was quoted in the New York Times from December 1971. It sounds like, now knowing what I know about Adrian Schoolcraft and how that happened 40 years after this, like, it's just deja vu. You know, it's the same thing. Nothing was ever like handled. I don't know if an internal investigative body was ever formed, but Adrian Schoolcraft certainly tried to use all the official avenues that he could, and well, you'll hear. So anyway, Officer Schoolcraft is a former New York City Police Department officer who secretly recorded police conversations from 2008 to 2009 while he was an officer in the Bed-Stuy neighborhood of New York. He brought these tapes to the NYPD internal affairs. So that's what I assume would have been the internal body, investigative body that would have been created. So he brought it to internal affairs in October 2009 as evidence of corruption and wrongdoing within the department. And he used the tapes as evidence that arrest quotas were leading to police abuses such as wrongful arrests, while the emphasis of fighting crime sometimes resulted in underreporting of crimes to keep the numbers down. So we'll talk specifically about each of those problems, but Schoolcraft in his suit alleged a coordinated and concentrated effort by high-ranking police officials to silence him after he began reporting to the department's Internal Affairs Bureau about officers ignoring or altering crime complaints as well as other misconduct. He made secret recordings inside the police precinct station house and also at roll calls and during his own forcible arrest. So in the beginning, when he was young, his dad was in the Navy and then went on to be a police officer, and he followed in his dad's footsteps eventually. He didn't actually join the police force right away. He joined after 9/11 because he felt like he had a duty to serve his country, which
this guy is brave.
I know, he's very admirable. He's also a little naive, which is sad. He really truly this entire time thought at some point he was going to find another good apple, basically. He kept being okay, I'll go to the next level above that person. I'm sure they'll have the integrity. They won't tolerate this corruption. They will understand where I'm coming from. And he got all the way up. And they forced him into a psych ward for 6 days. So, yeah. And that was just 10 years ago. So, basically, he just went into policing for all the right reasons. He's really earnest, and he really believed that he could get the police commission to change things when he noticed corruption, and he thought he could bring it to them and that they would, be grateful. So he went along with the program for a few years, and then he began to carry a recorder about the size of a pack of gum to avoid false accusations.
Wow. I hate that he noticed so much corruption and just wrongdoing that he even felt like this needed to happen. He must have just been so disappointed and just sad, and then knowing what happened to him ultimately, I'm just so mad. It's oh wow, the system sure does reward these brave, noble people who become law enforcement officers for the right reasons. Said No one ever. And
Right.
like, it's just like, it is shameful. And like, the New York Police Department and honestly police departments across the country, probably this whole entire country, should just be ashamed that the good apples are treated this way
Yeah.
and led that it leads to this.
When I was researching this, I came across the expression thin blue wall of silence a lot, and like that is just like the perfect example of what it is. Like they are so loyal to each other, but they have no sense of like integrity. So they will, I don't know. I really, this is like something that I talked to my ex with a lot, because he was friends with guys who were cheating on their girlfriends. You know what, Ben, you can take that out. This is stupid, but it is true. Is like, it's like, you don't have to, like, Patrick is wrong. Like, you don't have to be loyal to him. Like, you don't have to, like, but he would never. He would, anyway. Sometimes boys suck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a new commanding officer arrived and had like a really fucked up theory of policing, a bunch of power and no integrity, which is just a really, really bad, dangerous combination, but one that is rewarded in systems that are typically male dominated because they have like that kind of culture there. So like the military and the police in particular, like that, they talk about that culture a lot. You notice it. Well,
Yeah.
you notice it. I don't know how much people have been keeping up with Vanessa Guillen's story, but who was murdered at a naval base in Texas. But they talk a lot about like sexual assault in the military and how it's tolerated because like that's just like the culture that is accepted there. So it's just like kind of something that women are expected to like put up with, I hear.
Yeah,
So yeah. So all this guy cared about, I don't remember the new guy's name, but all he cared about was arrest quotas, which are illegal. He would tell his officers that it was time to pay rent, and that if they didn't, they could either be fired or relocated to desk jobs, which are like typically less desirable. But since it's illegal, they'd like tie themselves in knots trying to explain like what they wanted and say like, you have to give out this many summons without actually giving out a number, because like they're not technically supposed to say numbers. But then like immediately they'd be like, yeah, but we want 1, texting while driving, 3, blocking pedestrian traffic, and 4 like miscellaneous ones. And it's just like, well, those are numbers. So what, like, you can hear it on the tapes. So even if they were like trying to be secretive, like everybody knew what was expected of them. So he had recordings of all of this, like happening day in, day out, and more. He also had recordings of people doing stop and frisks, which is just arresting people with no probable cause just to clear the streets, and then bringing them in to see if they have warrants, which is technically kidnapping. And
usually happens to people of color, right?
Oh,
like,
of course.
So it's also like super racist in practice.
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but I think Bed-Stuy is a pretty diverse neighborhood. Actually, I guess I shouldn't say that. I don't know. It's probably not diverse. It's probably like a mostly black neighborhood. I guess I should probably, Ben, can you take that out? I'm just saying stuff that I don't know. Although I think that is true. But yeah, so Adrian has like a bunch of different recordings of illegal practices that happen on the reg. So again, like, who are they protecting and serving?
The status quo, white supremacy, and capitalism.
Okay, that's correct. And themselves.
Awful.
Yes.
Total
and I know
bullshit.
we talk about patterns all the time, but like we have to acknowledge that in male-dominated cultures like the police and the military, that there's this thin blue wall of silence, and that they are loyal to one another above all else, which is not a good quality.
No.
Yeah. So Adrian refused to meet these arbitrary quotas. There's recordings of him talking to his superiors about it. He'd police his jurisdiction but he wouldn't give random summons for stuff like blocking pedestrian traffic on an empty street just to like fuck with people or just to get his numbers or just because they called him a pig or whatever. Like, that's not illegal. But his commanding officer would tell him that if somebody did call him a pig or something like that, that they wouldn't respect him unless he like found a reason to arrest them, which is so backwards, you know? So he wouldn't get his numbers. Brooklynites who lived in the area patrolled by Schoolcraft reported that he was the only officer that they actually knew because he was the only one who was interested in actually talking to them, which is what police officers really should do because it could help you perform your job as a patrolman later. Like I don't know, his commanding officer would tell him to go into barbershops and like give summons for, or give tickets for like not sweeping up the hair on the ground. And it's like, why would you want to create a problem with somebody who like, do you know how many people talk to their barber? Like, it's a good idea to have a barber, like a friend who can be like, I heard some, you know, like you want to be in with the community so that they can help you instead of like, it's not it shouldn't be an adversarial thing. You know,
Yeah,
like
it's like so that just doesn't make any sense. Like,
I know.
And we know community policing isn't the answer to things, but like doing the opposite of that is definitely not the answer to anything.
Right.
What the fuck? Yeah. And like that is a very like important neighborhood in New York to Black culture.
Mm.
So like that's extra super shitty.
Yeah. Yep.
Hate that.
That's also another part of the problem is that officers rarely live in their own communities. When you're like paying the salaries of officers, but those officers don't live in your community, those are dollars that are starting in your community and then they're leaving your community. And that's obviously not ideal. Yeah. So he wouldn't get the numbers and then he'd get assigned shittier posts like prisoner transport, but he didn't really care because he just understood that like that's part of policing. But again, like retaliation is like not something that should be happening. So the problems that happen with what they were asking Schoolcraft to do was like this obsession with crime stats means that crimes are underreported or downgraded, and instead of like a stolen car, they would file it as an unauthorized driver because they'd be like, well, this time last year we didn't have any stolen cars, so like if we report a stolen car this year, it looks like crime is increasing, which like is all because it's a bunch of really dumb people using a really sophisticated, complicated system called CompStat, which
also, this is kind of like if we just don't test for coronavirus, then we'll have no cases. What the fuck?
Yeah, it is. It's so backwards. So that's what they'd be. So anyway, your commanding officer could just say, you know what, file that as an unauthorized driver instead of a stolen car. And then they'd go to put that in the crime report. But since you couldn't name the driver of the car, you can't file the report because it was stolen by a stranger. So like, anyway, so it just goes totally unreported. So that's one example. Also, serial rape kept getting downgraded to robbery or assault. So everybody is worried, like, it just creates this like vicious cycle because people know that crimes are being underreported and then they don't want it to get out. And so like everybody's all hush hush about it and they're worried about it getting out. So they just act like everything's normal. And then people get promoted because the numbers look good. And it's just like, it's a very widespread problem and people pretend like it's not, because if you start like tugging at the thread, the whole thing like comes unraveled, which is, I mean, what we want to happen. We're trying to get people to understand like the systemic corruption that just can't be reformed. So I mentioned CompStat. I'm a nerd and I like this stuff, but basically what it is it was created in 1994 by a guy named Jack Maple, who designed it he was a former transit cop, and he created CompStat to solve subway crime in New York, which is exactly what it did. He was like a savant with this stuff. He solved it. And essentially, like, okay, so what CompStat does is it meticulously tracks crime. And initially it was a huge success, but it turned really shitty really fast because as soon as people like Rudy Giuliani started using it, like that's a really stupid person using a really complicated system that they don't understand. And also Rudy Giuliani is not just stupid, he's also deeply racist. So like if you have a racist person operating a complicated system, like the output is also racist. So famously, like Jack Maple used to argue that if crime was low, arrests should be low, which makes sense. Rudy Giuliani would have always said, no, if crime is low, arrests should be high. So that's how he basically created broken windows policing.
Arrests don't prevent crime.
Right.
Actually, I mean, long term, they make it worse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What the fuck? Rudy Giuliani, like, you're racist and you're stupid.
I know. It made me mad researching this to learn that he had anything to do with it. So
He's
if you
involved in
want to learn
so
more,
much bad shit.
I know. If you want to learn more about CompStat, Reply All has 2 episodes about it. They're like deep dives into Jack Maple and all about it. I think it's called Crime Machine. I think it's 2 parts. But what CompStat really did, or what it ended up doing, now that the people who create, like, it's basically like a Frankenstein monster in the hands of dumb people who don't know how to use it correctly. So it makes people an expert in crime downgrading. So they cheat a little bit and then they have to cheat a little more. And then the next guys come in and they're like, how could I possibly make these numbers? So I'm going to have to cheat a little bit more. So what that results in is broken windows policing, which is what Rudy Giuliani came up with. So he believed that if you aggressively police low-level crimes, that there would be a general sense of order, that more violent crime just wouldn't occur. He just described it as catching criminals when they were off duty, which sounds pretty fucking racist to me, because guess who they target?
Wow.
Mostly black people.
This is like I just think of was it in like San Francisco, a black man was tackled by police for eating a sandwich while he was waiting for a train. And it's like right outside of where they were tackling a man for having a sandwich, there were people like shattering windows and breaking into vehicles and like committing crimes that are actually like damaging towards people's like property and stuff, which like already like sucks, but isn't nearly as bad as like actual things that like hurt people even physically, but like still like it's like, okay, so you could have been, you know, doing something about the vehicle break-ins or maybe testing rape kits, but you were tackling a man about a sandwich.
Right.
It's just such a waste of resources.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's really inefficient.
And it just hurts people. Like it helps no one and it hurts everyone.
So it's a system and you can look for it. So when places are engaging in that kind of behavior, you'll see low crime rates but high police activity. That's what people are like aiming for, low crime rates, high police activity, but that actually doesn't tell you anything about like how often situations are de-escalated or if black kids and white kids are stopped at the same rates or anything like that. So I don't know, broken windows policing just kind of reminds me of like trickle down economics. Like it doesn't work, but it's the excuse that people use to get away with bullshit. It's like, oh no, that's trickle down economics. Oh, it seems like rich people are just getting richer and hoarding wealth. No, it's just trickle down economics. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's just broken windows policing. Really? Because it seems very racist and targeted. Yeah. No. It's Rudy Giuliani came up with it. It's fine. No.
Oh man.
Okay, so back to Adrian. His bosses gave him a failing job evaluation because he wouldn't get his quotas. They were starting basically the paperwork trail to get rid of him. So we got a lawyer because he knew he was being retaliated against. So again, it's an entire fucked up culture. Other officers agreed with him that it was messed up, but they like had wives and kids, and it was kind of just like easier to go along with it. Whereas Adrian talks about how he's single and doesn't have kids, so like he kind of felt like it was his duty to sort of do that because there wasn't really anybody being hurt by him doing that. Which again, he's just like a brave dude.
Sweet baby angel.
Yes. So they try to force him out on psychiatric grounds. He maintains that the quota system is illegal and unethical. And then finally he starts experiencing physical symptoms like nausea and shortness of breath, chest pains, which is like typical of anxiety. His doctor refers him to the NYPD psychiatrist. He tells her everything, including everything that's going on. And she takes his gun and badge.
Wow.
Yes. So, like, even the NYPD psychiatrist is not interested in getting to the bottom of this kind of stuff. So then he takes it to the Internal Affairs Bureau. They also don't take him seriously. They're very skeptical, and they leave voicemails at his desk, which alerts his bosses that he's talking to the Internal Affairs Bureau. So they're already retaliating against him, and then Internal Affairs like alerts them that he's working with Internal Affairs, so they like bully him even more.
What the fuck?
Yeah, there's no like what is that word?
It's not discreet at all.
Yeah, they're not like
There's no
discreet about
discretion.
anything at all.
What the fuck?
I know, it's crazy. It's infuriating.
That would be like if you went to HR and told
Yes.
them like, hey, I'm being sexually harassed. And they were like, oh, okay.
I'll just leave this packet of what to do if you're being sexually harassed at work on your desk.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, let's send an email out to all staff that say, a female employee recently, like, da-da-da-da-da. And you're just like, I'm the only woman who works here. So cool.
Right,
Thanks.
right,
Great.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
God damn.
So all of that's happening, but he's recording all of this. You know, he's got all of these meetings with Internal Affairs on record. He even like provides documents to back up his claims to Internal Affairs. So kind of in the midst of this, one day in October, he's feeling anxious and kind of sick at work. So he leaves an hour early. He like requests time from his boss, and his boss says he can go home. So he goes home an hour early, he takes some NyQuil, and he goes to bed, which seems pretty standard to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wakes up super disoriented a few hours later to a dozen SWAT officers knocking at his door, all because he left work an hour early because he said he wasn't feeling well. So he starts recording, obviously.
Wait, I'm
and
so
they eventually
confused.
let themselves in. What?
They showed up just because he left work early, but like he had permission, right? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just like he just like peaced out.
Yeah. I think they probably thought that he was like, okay, this is the time that I'm gonna like
Oh my
flip
God,
on them
yeah,
or
they
something
thought he
like
was gonna,
that.
like drop some.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which he wasn't. He was sleeping. So eventually they let themselves in his house. They got the key from his landlord because they claimed that they were worried about his well-being. Again, like all because if you were like, hey, can I go home early? I don't feel great. I'd be like, yeah, and I probably wouldn't think about it until the next day. But they sent like an entire SWAT team over.
What the fuck?
So it was a particularly big deal because the number 2 commander for the entire NYPD was among the men who showed up in Adrian's house. So like I said, it goes all the way to the top. So he keeps repeating that he's worried about Adrian's safety, which Adrian explains is his excuse for entering his house. So it's, again, huge overreaction, but they demand that Adrian go back to the precinct with him. Adrian refuses. He asks if he's under arrest because he knows his rights. And he's like, I'm good right here. You guys can just go.
Is this Russia?
Yeah.
That's how I feel right now.
Yes. So there's 4 officers in his room at this time, dozens more in his living room. And again, all for leaving work early. They ask if he wants medical attention, and he says no, which by law at this point they should leave him alone. They say he's acting irrational. He's not. And again, like he's recording this whole thing. And they say that they're going to be forced to treat him as an EDP, which means emotionally distressed person. And it's like at this point that he realizes that there's no witnesses and that like they can say whatever they want happened, basically.
Oh my God, they're just like gaslighting, complete gaslighting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Holy shit.
So I'm going to play another clip real quick. I forget what this one is, but whatever. I must have picked it for a reason. Okay. So then the recorder fell out of his pocket and the commanding officer found it. But guess what? He had another one recording on the table. Actually, it was on the shelf. It was like on a bookshelf and it was like hidden like amongst some books. So the rest is not recorded because the one that basically he had a record, he'd been carrying a recorder around in his pocket at all times. And that's what had been recording stuff for the last like 18 months. But when they showed up at his door, he also set up another one on his shelf in his room recording. So we got to hear everything that happened in his room. When they arrested him, like really forcibly, it fell out of his pocket, and the like commanding officer was like, can't believe you do this to your fellow police officers. Da, da, da. So we don't have any recordings of what happens next because they took his recorder. But okay, so what happens next is that he was involuntarily committed to a psychiatric ward in Jamaica Hospital Medical Center. He was handcuffed to a bed and prevented from using a telephone by orders of the police who were present. An officer told the hospital that police had followed him home and he had barricaded himself and the door had to be broken just to get to him.
This is a lie. That is a lie. And this is
And he can prove it with the recording.
Fucking
Exactly.
corrupt. And just like he was handcuffed, who was he a danger to?
Right.
Besides the institution of the New York Police Department.
Right.
Holy fuck. Like, this is complete insanity. Like, and this is the thing too, is the people who are like hashtag Blue Lives Matter should be just as pissed off about this shit as we are. Like, they should be mad about this, but they are silent about these kinds of things. And that's how you know that their whole hashtag Blue Lives Matter thing doesn't come from caring about police officers or the safety and well-being of the public. It comes from hatred of Black people.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah. So ironically, he was involuntary institutionalized on contrived pretenses, which is what he'd been accusing his bosses of doing all along, like arresting people on contrived pretenses. So they lied to the hospital staff and said that he screamed at his superiors, ran from them, barricaded himself in his home. Again, he has tape proving that none of that is true. But like, imagine what kind of lies they'll tell to justify violent behavior against like unarmed Black men.
Yeah.
If this is what they'll do to one of their own police officers, you know, like they totally set him up. All of this just to be able to say that he's crazy, that like,
to discredit what he has gathered, the information he has gathered about the corruption.
Right.
Within
That's
the
perfect. Yeah. Discredit is the perfect word. Yeah.
Oh
So nobody knows where he is for 6 days. His dad finally finds him by calling around to hospitals. He asks why his son is being hospitalized and they don't have a reason. So they have to let him go. He was suspended without pay, ended up living with his dad like 350 miles away from New York. A dozen different times since that happened, NYPD officers would show up, knock on the door just to intimidate him. And of course he would record it. What? Yeah, for why? But yeah, they put him in a psych ward just to discredit him because he tried to report corruption and misconduct. They can't discredit him because he has 18 months of recordings and they're proving his point by lying about things that can be disproved by those recordings. The part that's kind of a bummer and kind of confusing, he said no matter what he would end up going to trial, but he ended up settling out of court. So he was originally suing them for $50 million. He ended up receiving $600,000 as part of a settlement reached with the city over his arrest and forced hospitalization. So the federal suit, which included allegations of a quota system at the police department, rampant misconduct in the faking of crime reports, and a culture of retaliation against whistleblowers, was filed in 2010. And it had been like about to go to trial right when it was settled. So I don't know. Well, I think that's a bummer because we would have found
Yeah.
out so much more stuff if it had gone
And
to trial.
so many things don't go to trial. Like,
Yeah.
what, like 90%, I think, of
Yeah,
cases
it's
never
in the
actually
90s.
go to trial. It's insane. And
Yep.
God, like, yeah, that's shit.
Yeah. So I don't know.
God,
The
I'm
saddest part to
angry.
me is that he like really thought he would eventually find someone superior to him who would be on his side. Like he just kept going up the ladder looking for another good person, and he couldn't find like one person to help fight corruption. So there's tons of commissions proving this, like the from Frank Serpico from the 70s. This is from the 2010s. Like there's tons in between. Same kind of BS is happening all over the country, not just in the NYPD. It's happening all over the world because it's a result of this system. And it's ridiculous to pretend like we won't keep getting the same results without major overhaul, which is why people are talking about defunding the police, because these commissions happen. They talk about systemic reform, permanent, like investigative bodies. What did that investigative body do for Adrian Schoolcraft? Nothing. So no more chances. Like they don't get any. It's a corrupt culture, top to bottom. It's got to go. So
Wow.
it's sad. He was a good police officer. He still wants to be a police officer, but he probably never will be again. So yeah. You want to do an ad swap?
Yeah, let's do an ad swap.
Do 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 do. Okay.
Do we want to kind of split it up like we did last time?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put yours in black again. Okay. All right, ad swap. I should make sure I really, really nail it. Okay. All right. Since we know our listeners love hearing women talk, we want to recommend a very cool podcast from Canadian duo Maria and Casey, two best friends who love drinking wine and talking shit as much as we do.
Their podcast, You Can't Sip With Us, is all about their ridiculous and entertaining friendship. Topics ranging from weird things that turn them on, sharing some of their most embarrassing stories, and everything in between.
So go check out the podcast, You Can't Sip With Us, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
God, we're so professional. Okay. This has been about 45 minutes, so I'm going to try to be quick.
Okay. I'll be quick with my cat story at the end, or I can just skip it.
I think you should. We'll give a brief cat update. We'll give the people what they want.
Yeah, everybody wants to hear about the cats.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to remind everybody that police don't provide a service that is beneficial to the community. The services that they provide criminalize Black communities, impoverish Black communities, and reallocate resources to the suburbs where the police actually live, because this is a race class issue, just like most of the other ones that we talk about.
Yep. Police don't do anything to prevent crime. They only respond. Why the fuck does New York City need $6 billion with a B, $6 billion to respond to crimes, and a fraction of that actually goes to prevent crimes by investing in things like housing and public health and like actual like safety and education,
Which is cheaper,
yeah,
also less expensive. So it's a win-win.
mm-hmm.
Stop electing men.
Yeah, women, primarily Black women, get to make all the decisions from here on
Yeah,
out.
for
We've
sure.
said it before. We're going to keep saying it.
Maybe, what if we just like weighted people's votes and we gave like white men were.
Oh my God, white men get to be 3/5 as a person of a
Sure.
person.
But
I love it.
yeah,
White men get to be 3/5
let's be
of a
creative
person.
with our solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll call it the 3/5 compromise.
I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah, like I feel like that's something the founding fathers would totally get down
They'd
with.
approve.
Yeah.
So this is what happens to good cops. They are ostracized, abused, kidnapped by the bad apples. There is a blue wall of silence. They are loyal to each other no matter the morality of the issue. They either conform or they get forced out one way or another, and there's really no evidence to believe that anything has changed in the last 10 years since Adrian came forward, or in the last 50 since Frank Serpico came forward. And that, I don't know, I think this will probably be the last episode I do about like systemic police corruption. I mean, at some point I'm gonna talk about the Golden State Killer, but that is kind of different. But I really tried to like pick a case that just gave all the examples of why like what we're talking about is so important, and we're not going to shut up until we've made progress, because I feel like people think things have gone back to normal, and like a handful of cities writing Black Lives Matter on their streets, and like a couple cities voting to defund their police departments without, I don't know. There's a lot more work to do, and we're not done.
Yeah.
That's all.
Power to the people. Real
Yes.
power to the people.
Yes. I don't know if we need an asshole of the week this week. I'm going to nominate Rudy Giuliani just because we haven't put him up there before yet. I didn't really realize until researching for this episode that broken windows policing was his dumb racist idea. But yeah, like I said, it's like a dumb racist guy operating a system that was created by a really smart guy and Rudy doesn't know how to operate it.
Yeah. No. Like, Rudy Giuliani is a shriveled sack of racist white dog shit. And
yeah, that's what came back on his
absolutely-
Ancestry DNA kit.
Yep, that's all it was. And
Yeah.
that he absolutely needs to be asshole of the week.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we are up to this week. So the main takeaway is like support and vote for people who understand that these issues are systemic and they want to solve them, and hint, it's not Republicans or even corporate Democrats who are trying to take these issues on. Make sure your social media feed is diverse. I recommend joining your local DSA, that's Democratic Socialists of America. That's what Bernie is. That's what AOC is. Like, really, like, that's the gold standard. And that's where we're trying to go. That's our North Star. So the Chicago DSA sends out an excellent newsletter every week with actions. Like, most of the actions that I pick are from that newsletter. So if you hear what we're doing and you like the options, but you like don't love them, there are way more options in that newsletter than like I could ever get to. So if you like, these are just examples of what me and Morgan are doing this week, but there's plenty of other stuff that you guys could be doing.
Yep.
What else
Yeah.
do we recommend?
Well, I mean, this is a non-political action, but spay and neuter your pets, damn it. Like, I love my feral cats. I do. I really love these cats. I love taking care of them, but also like it is exhausting, and it makes me so sad that I can't help them, and that I can't help them all. Like, and you know, today I caught another kitten, and she's so freaking cute. Oh my God. It was very hard for me not to keep her, but she's safely with the animal rescue now. Peaches would not allow me to have another cat. So, but she's so cute and just sweet and perfect and stuff. But like me catching her is the only thing that's keeping her from next year having 2 litters of kittens, and then maybe 2 litters of kittens the next year. And like, just spay and neuter your pets. Try to help other people do the same thing. Like, we can't keep doing this. The world doesn't need more feral cat colonies.
No.
As much as I love them. Spay and neuter your pets.
Good message.
That's it.
Good for evergreen message.
Mm-hmm.
So every week I've been trying to pick a different progressive candidate to donate to. Yesterday in Texas, a progressive challenger beat a conservative Democrat for
Yay!
Texas's 10th district. That's Mike Siegel. So he it was actually really awesome learning about him. He's a civil rights lawyer, former public school teacher running for Congress in Texas. He's running a totally people-powered campaign, no corporate PAC money, and he specifically mentions accountability for corrupt officials on his site, which I'm all about. So I donated $25 to Mike Siegel. I encourage everybody to do that.
You, Texas is going blue.
I know. It's like, yeah, that's what I keep thinking about when I'm writing postcards for like Danny Brzezowski or whatever, is like, if they show up for her, they'll probably also vote for Biden. Like, if you donate to Mike Siegel or you write postcards for Mike Siegel or whatever, like there's other volunteer opportunities for him on his page too. That's just a down ballot race that's going to encourage people to get out, and a person who's voting for Mike Siegel will likely also vote for Joe Biden. So it's synergistic. I also donated to, I found a nonprofit organization that is called the Whistleblower Support Fund. So it was created to provide support to whistleblowers in corporate and governmental institutions to ensure that they will be able to exercise their right to free speech, conscientiously perform their duties, and remain free from harassment and intimidation. So that feels like a good thing to support when we're talking about a whistleblower.
That's very relevant.
Yes. Whistleblowers are good and important, and we should protect them.
Mm-hmm. They're so important.
What else? Like I said, I try to donate or try to dedicate a certain amount of hours to progressive political stuff per month. So this week I went to my Indivisible meeting like usual. I've been writing 10 postcards to for Danny Brzezowski's campaign in Illinois' 16th district, trying to flip that blue. Adam Kinzinger sucks. But if that doesn't spark joy for you, find the nearest swing district to you and reach out to their campaign, even if it's just on social media or whatever, see if there's anything that you can do. Danny Brzezowski's campaign just mailed me like 200 postcards, and they offered to give me stamps too. So like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff that you can do. You just got to be creative. So yeah, find your nearest swing district, or adopt one of the ones we're talking about. But
yeah, and it's so easy to get involved with campaigns virtually right now too. Like, I'm getting involved with the Teresa Greenfield campaign here in Iowa, so we can defeat Joni Ernst and flip the Senate. And like, it's very easy.
Yeah,
it's
and
easy
rewarding.
And it's awesome. It's rewarding. It's important, and at least like, hey, we're doing something.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is great. You know, it makes me feel like I have a little bit more control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any self-care this week?
So I am still I'm still reading the book So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijoma Oluo. Love it. It's so good. Like, I am like dog earing because I'm a monster, but like every 3 pages I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to mark this page. It's so important. So that's been great. And then just in terms of like mindless things to do that make me not have to think, I started watching the show Community, and I have laughed out loud more than once, which is something we all need to be doing.
Oh my gosh, Clark is going to be so happy to hear that. He loves Community, and he keeps trying to get me to watch. I do like it. I just like, it hasn't like hooked me. Like, I do like watching it, but it wasn't one of those shows where I was like, oh my God, I have to watch the next episode right now.
Yeah, I think that's something that I like about it, is like, it's not a show that's going to compel me to stay up late continuing to like binge it, but it's really nice and enjoyable to have on, especially while I like online shop or, you know,
for sure,
stretch, do things like that.
I found a new show that I did binge watch, and it was actually kind of a lot. It's called I Will Destroy You.
I like the sound of it.
It was excellent. Everybody should watch it. It wasn't that many episodes, but yeah, it was really, really good. I mean, trigger warning, there's sexual assault and like drug abuse and stuff. Like, so it's a heavy you know, if you want to go light, go Community. If you want to go heavy, go I Will Destroy You. But I think it was written and produced all by one woman, and she's a Black woman.
Oh, I
And
love
she's
that.
It's excellent, and we ought to support her.
Yeah,
And she
I
also
love
wrote the show, or at least wrote for the show Chewing Gum, which is not out yet, but I'm looking forward to now because I Will Destroy You was so good.
I feel like our like self-care fucking hooray thing we're currently very into is for me almost always something like funny and mindless and lighthearted. And you're always like, this is a really serious and important thing and you're going to love it. And then I watch it and I do love it too. But then I feel really sad and have to go watch my silly, stupid, mindless thing for 4 hours.
I don't think I Will Destroy You will make you as sad as Unbelievable did.
Okay, that's good because whew, that really had me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll like it. I also finished reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which is a really good book. And
I love her so
you'll
much.
like that book. Everybody will like that book.
Yeah, it's next on my list after I finish the
Women,
other books.
I mean,
that are also
I
next on
recommend
my list.
especially for women. Sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I said I have so many books that are next on my list, and that's one of them.
Yeah. It's all about like unlearning all the unhealthy shit that you learned, and it's just nice to hear it laid out. She lays it out nicely.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other updates?
I think that's it for now.
All right. Well, then we will talk to you guys next week. Until then, stay sexy.
And defund the police.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.